It's time for another edition of Prose with Vicki Locke and Cindy Woolley from C2 Communications.
Cheers.
Hi, everybody. Yes, welcome to Prose. I'm drinking a fabulous Amarone Tomasi. What about you?
I'm drinking a Pinot Noir from Cloudvale, and it's lovely.
Cloudvale, never heard of it, but I'll check it out. It's good?
Yeah, it's good. It's bright and berry.
Bright and airy. Okay. Okay.
As a cloud should be.
And Cindy Woolley here, Prose, a couple of PR chicks talking about books with fabulous authors and sipping our favorite cocktails. And this is funny, the statistic just came out today. 43% of adults say that they are living their dream job, that what they thought they would be when they were a little kid actually came true. So what did you want to be when you were a little kid?
Gosh, I think like many little girls, one of my dreams was to be a veterinarian. But I can very distinctly remember raising my hand and saying, I want to be the president of the United States. Now I go, wow, that's a lot harder job than what I thought back then.
And I actually wanted to be a doctor, which is number one on the list, doctor or nurse, followed by lawyer, actor, artist, and teacher. So we are not part of that 43% at all. We didn't make it. We didn't make the cut.
But even if we didn't make the cut, I still feel like I'm living the dream. Feel like it is public relations, man. Getting to tell stories and be a part of stories. Living the dream.
Living the dream. Drinking wine and talking to great authors like our guest. She's an award-winning chef and a cookbook writer, and I think that she is living her dream, actually. She loves to hang out with celebrities, rather they love to hang out with her. She has cooked for the James Beard Foundation. She's written 6 cookbooks, including Secrets of the Southern Table. The Chicago Tribune says she is one of the 7 food writers we all need to know. She is Georgia-born and French-trained, so I wonder how you say y'all in French. We'll have to find out. Welcome, Chef Virginia Willis.
Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for having me today.
Hey, what are you drinking?
What am I drinking? I am drinking a homemade, house-made kombucha. So I'm not quite ready for anything hard this afternoon. So I'm just going to do a little kombucha right now.
What is that?
So kombucha is a lightly fermented beverage, but it's mildly alcoholic, like less than 1%.
Okay.
But it's a fermented beverage that is the primary base is made from tea. And when everyone started making sourdough last year at the height of the pandemic, I did the sourdough thing, right, a long time ago. So I was like, what can I make? And I decided to start making kombucha. So I make kombucha, and it's fizzy and funky, and it's got all sorts of live probiotics that are good for your gut.
And it sounds very
just like
Southern.
that Amarone. Just like that Amarone.
How do you say y'all in French?
Well, this is the truth, Vicki. The southern drawl and the French language are not friends.
They're not.
They are not friends. But if you talk like you have a mouthful of crackers, you can pretty much sound French. If you just talk like you got a mouthful of salty, right?
Now you knew as a little girl, we were talking about the statistic that 43% of adults say that they are living their dream job. That's you, right?
Gosh, I think so. I have a really rich life, and the thing that's so cool about it is it's not just one thing, right? I get to do tons of different things. So I don't know that I knew that I wanted to do it as a job when I grew up, but I've always loved to cook. That is a for certain.
And how did you get started cooking?
Well, when I was a little girl, it was all in my mom's and my grandmother's kitchen, right? Like I was a little kid that wouldn't get out from underfoot, that wanted to, help, right? And but then my grandmother really did. She put me on a stool or a chair rather when I was 3, and there, pictures of me making biscuits at her countertop. So I really have been in the kitchen my whole entire life. But profession-wise, my real first job when I knew the direction that I wanted to go was actually as an apprentice on Natalie Dupree's PBS shows that were at the time shot here in Atlanta.
Wow.
Yeah.
Natalie is lovely, but I'm sure there are some chefs that maybe aren't so lovely. And I'm just going to, in meeting Martha Stewart, I respect her and I like her, but she wasn't all that friendly.
Well,
and
we
you
all
worked,
have our days,
so-
right? Let's just take that under consideration. But I think that I would never, under any stretch of the imagination, ever describe Martha as warm and fuzzy.
Okay.
She just sells warm and fuzzy blankets, and
Yeah, no, but she's an amazing businesswoman, right? I mean, I think that that's the thing. And she does have this sort of, she does have this incredible reputation for housekeeping, keeping a beautiful house, keeping a beautiful home, keeping a beautiful garden, cooking beautiful food. But she's definitely not the sweet little housewife with the demure apron, Mrs. Cleaver, right? So she's she's a businesswoman, and I think in a way, her sort of her approach with business is much in the way that she approaches the house. She's an achiever of excellence, right? And that doesn't always make for warm and fuzzy.
I can say that I relate. So people have probably said similar things about me. But Virginia, you were telling us earlier that there was another chef that has had a very positive impact on your life with teaching graciousness. And would you like to share that story?
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. Well, what we were talking about, as y'all know, before we got started, was that there are so many, people have a perception of celebrities, whether that's an actor or an actress or a chef or, reality star. Viewers only know people through the screen and what that image is projected. So a lot of people, have this perception or misperception. And early on in my career, I was able to meet Julia Child, the legendary Julia Child, on more than one occasion. But even before I got to meet her, I was working an event in a kitchen, one of those huge galas, hundreds of people. And she did that time, and numerous times Child would always go into the kitchen and thank the kitchen before she left the event. And that was such a great lesson to me as a young cook. And, really it doesn't hurt anyone to be nice.
Aw. Now, the only thing I'm sure Cindy doesn't remember, and maybe you do or not, but Dan Aykroyd's imitation of her on Saturday Night Live. And,
Yes.
You cook the
Okay, so I have a great story for you ladies. So I'll do the super condensed version, but it's on that note. So I was able to meet her, and when I lived and worked in France, she was friends with the woman that owned the school. So she would come to France for weeks at a time, and I knew her. And it was an amazing to be able to be in her sphere at all. And anyway, so flash forward a couple of years, I'm in New York. We're at one of those huge events. Now, instead of me being in the kitchen, I'm out in the ballroom. And my friend kept saying, go say hello, go say hello. And I thought, she is not going to remember me from Adam's House Cat, right? She doesn't know who I am. So I didn't want to bother her. I was nervous. I was embarrassed. I was shy, and I didn't want to go over. And so finally, between the dessert and the coffee, I went over and I said, hey, Julia, I just wanted to say hello. It's Ann's Virginia. And I was giving her context because I had worked for this lady named Ann. So I called myself Ann's Virginia. And she looked at me and she goes, I know who you are. I was wondering why you hadn't come over to say hello.
Oh,
Wow.
oh, that's so sweet.
So Anyway,
It almost sounded like Meryl
yes,
Streep.
Dan Aykroyd did a great impression, possibly better impression than mine.
And speaking of celebs, Cindy, just get into it because she's got a huge crush on somebody you've made cookies with.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson, you've made cookies with him.
He is such a hottie, yes. So I met him a million years ago, literally. He was up and coming in his career. And it was the same thing. I think we see a thread here, ladies. He was so nice, right? I mean, it was on set at Martha Stewart. He was a big guy, came with an entourage. I mean, he was up and coming, but he was already like making the appearances on national television. He was this big strapping guy, I mean, he's a thing, right? And he was so nice, right? He thanked us all and he was like, because he was making chocolate chip cookie and we were right there in the kitchen together. So I think, and he was really nice too. So all the wonderful experience that I have, the ones that stand out for me are these incredible people that I've been fortunate enough to meet.
I tell you, I loved him because he gave these positive messages to young women as a girl dad. And now that I know that he can cook and bake cookies as well, I just love him a little bit smidge more.
I know how could The Rock get any better? And he does, right? So he's a hottie, he's handsome, he's a girl dad, he can cook.
I will just throw that out there, Dwayne. If you learn gluten-free cooking, I'm happy to work with you. We'll make a big cheat day for you.
So, Chef, we know that it was your grandmother that kind of inspired you and your love of cooking, but what made you want to write cookbooks?
Oh, gosh. Yes, I am. Thank you for saying that, Vicki. I'm a cook that became a writer. I worked in restaurants for years, but much of my experience always was on the media side. So working my first job with Natalie, she wrote cookbooks. I worked in her test kitchen. When I lived in France, I worked in restaurants, but I also worked for another Anne, the woman that wrote cookbooks. When I moved back to the United States, ditto. Worked for Martha Stewart on her television series, but she also wrote cookbooks. So, I mean, for a long time, I wanted to share stories because, like y'all are talking at the top of the show, it's the stories. Like you're in PR and getting to tell the stories, you're going to be a part of the stories. I think it's the stories, of course, that really resonate with people in addition to those delicious recipes.
Did you ever have, like, if you're cooking for a large group of people, even a small group of people, a huge disaster and you had to come up with some solution? What? Tell us.
Absolutely. If anyone doesn't agree to that, doesn't fess up on that, they're telling a big stinking, what. Yeah, everybody messes up. I can't remember. I actually was interviewed. I think Jen Hobby asked me something a couple weeks ago. She's like, have you ever messed up? And literally that afternoon, I posted on my Instagram, I left a rubber spatula in the pot. Let's just say Mr. Spatula went from being a very sturdy spatula to a not very sturdy spatula. He looked like he might need a little blue pill or something. Yeah. So I mess up. I've left flour out of a cake that needed flour. I have miscalculated eggs. Like when you're multiplying recipes up for say 100 people or 150 people, you get that decimal in the wrong spot, and it can add up quickly. Or think about it. Just think about this for a second. Let's just pretend that I'm making a recipe that needs a cup of something, even a cup of water. And I'm cooking for 1,000 people. That's 1,000 cups of water. That's a lot of water, right? So anyway, yes, I've got some. I'm trying to think of the worst one. I don't know that there's a worse one, but I got plenty.
But you never had, like, you burned all the steak and you said, we're having lasagna instead.
Oh, well, okay, that's a good point. I have done that. Actually, I had some folks over not too long ago just for dinner, but I think I'm so out of practice with the pandemic that I wasn't entertaining very well. We were having hamburgers and I burnt the hamburger buns on the grill. Now I had backup, right? A good chef always has some kind of backup, but that's a good idea to have something like really ready to go. Like, okay, I lied. No burgers with lasagna.
Are there certain things that you can't live without? Like you always have to have certain things in your pantry or your fridge at all times?
Gosh, yeah. Well, I have a lot of salts. Like I think salts are really important, and I love the different shapes and the taste. And then for me, I love to travel, so I love getting salts from different places. It's a nice keepsake that's also practical. But I think that one thing that is oddly probably at the top of my list is that I love to have a good selection of high quality oils. I don't use a lot of oil, so when I do use oil, I want it to be really delicious and flavorful and like part of the dish and part of the flavor of the dish, not just like oil in a pan.
What's your favorite kind of oil? Like,
Well, so one of the, well, I love that different ones for different reasons, right? But like some of the ones that I'm thinking of right now, there's this little farm in South Georgia, Oliver Farm, and they make these beautiful artisan pressed oils. Sweet, sweet couple in Pitts, Georgia. It's like this big around, 150 people, but he's kind of like he's a farm boy and he's a tinkerer, and he was like, anyway, he wanted to try to press oil so he could use biofuel for his tractor. Like that's just where he was going because he wanted to raise corn. But then it turned out that he started making these really great oils. So he makes like Benny seed oil, peanut oil, pecan oil, sunflower oil that taste like sunflower seeds. Like it tastes like you just took a baseball game sunflower seed and ate it. So I'm obviously a huge fan, and it's, you know, just really, it's cool. I think that it's a Southern product. It's a modern product, and it's a family product. It's a small farm, and it tastes delicious. So it's that kind of stuff that I really, those relationships are what I really love to have in my kitchen.
oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Now, I understand you're also pretty well stocked on okra, or at least you've got enough okra to write a whole cookbook.
Yes, yes, I love Cindy. That's so awesome that you're an okra fan too, because people love it or they hate it. There's not a whole lot in the middle.
Love
I've
that.
been really bad and really good. You're right.
Yeah, people. No one's like, yeah, you know, no one's like, you know, take it or leave it. Like, do you like broccoli? Yeah, you know, okra's like, oh my God, no. Like people lose their minds. People lose their minds. And the people that love okra, they'll eat it anyway. Like slide it down your mouth or fry it or grill it or broil it or gumbo, you know, right? Is that right, Cindy? Do you like it always?
You know, when I was growing up, it was either like breaded and fried at Cracker Barrel, very Southern, or it was pickled. There was only the two ways. And now I go to a farmer's market and I get fresh okra and I saute it. I put it in soups. I put it in everything. And I just love okra season.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. And it's nice because okra lasts like into the fall. You know what I mean? Like it's, you know, like deep into October, we'll still be having some okra because it's a late crop. I've always said that a pickled okra is like the gateway drug for okra. If anyone is on the fence, that pickled okra sort of bobbing in vodka, that's a door opener for people.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Cindy mentioned fried okra. And when I first moved to Atlanta, coming from Ohio, I thought Southern food, it had to be fried. That's what I just thought. And in your last book, The Secrets of the Southern Table, really, you explain that not everything, I guess we were all misinformed, that you can't eat healthy and eat Southern, right?
Right. Well, I mean, thank you for pointing that out. It's kind of been a career mission, even when I wasn't always representative of what I feel like the mission was. But so Southern food is not all unhealthy, you know. I mean, there's a lot of great Southern food that, you know, okra and tomatoes, for example. I mean, even if there is like a tablespoon or two of bacon grease in here, that does not mean that dish is inherently unhealthy. And frankly, a little bacon grease can go a long way. So you can have, you can have it both. But no, I think there is a perception, somewhat of a misperception, that all Southern food is fried. I always tell people, Vicki, like, if we were to judge Southern food by only fried chicken, that would be like judging Mexican food by like only a burrito, or French food by only a crepe, right? I mean, it's just this one dimension of the cuisine. So there's a lot out there.
And Cindy wanted to ask you about another food fave of hers, salmon.
Salmon. I saw that you were connected to Wild Alaska Seafood. And I got to tell you, if you're going to get salmon, Alaskan is the best. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for asking me about that. No, so I'm a huge fisherman. I love to fish. I've fished my whole entire life. And we had a pond growing up. And my grandparents also went to Alaska. They took their camper motorhome from Georgia to Alaska like 3 times during my childhood. So Alaska from the very beginning was this like place of wonder for me. And I probably was in college the first time I ever had commercially canned salmon, because my grandparents would go to Alaska and catch the salmon. My grandmother would put it in mason jars and they would bring it back. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right?
Mason jars?
Mason jars. It's just like canning. It's canning. They canned it.
Okay.
So anyway, I love Alaska. I'm a big, huge advocate for sustainable seafood. I'm on the board of the Monterey Bay Aquarium Chefs Panel. And I work with this company. It's called actually the Wild Alaskan Company. And it's a subscription seafood. I'm getting another box this week. I love it. Like, I swear to you, if I weren't a customer, if they weren't one of my clients, if they weren't one of my partners, I would be a customer. It's awesome. You get individually frozen pieces of flash frozen pieces of portioned fish, 6-ounce portions in a subscription, and it's like delivered once a month or once every 2 months. It's pretty flexible. Yeah. So, and it's great because it's good for you. It's sustainable. It's fantastic.
No, yeah.
Hungry.
Now,
if you could have a dinner party with just say 4 to 6 people, anybody you want, dead or alive, who would you sit down and eat with, and what would be the perfect meal?
Oh gosh, what a question. I don't know. I have to tell you, it feels so, I feel like I've been so sequestered with entertaining. I'm a little rusty. I have to admit it. Anybody dead or alive, well, I'd still have to have my mom and my sister, right? I'd want them to be a part of it. 4 people would be hard to limit it to. But I do know that what I am serving would depend on the when it is, right? So like right now we're coming into fall, and I guess the night before last I had my first sweet potato of the season, and it's been since last fall since I had a sweet potato, and I was like, oh yay, fall food. Like, as we go into each season, there's certain dishes and ingredients that really shine, and so a meal like that would deserve definitely seasonal and fresh food. Making y'all hungry?
Yes, I'm very hungry now.
I'm all excited.
I had a pork chop and some charred cauliflower with that sweet potato. So it was a really autumnal meal. It was good.
Charred cauliflower, like they have a true food. I just had my first charred cauliflower with Cindy, and I'm thinking, okay, really? It was so great. I now dream about it.
No, I tell you, all those vegetables that are in the group what are called brassicas, right? So cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, kale, all those greens, they're bitter. They're naturally bitter. And so they really benefit by being charred, which sounds crazy. It's like, well, it's bitter, and then that's bitter on top of it. But not a fast char, more of like a slow roast, a slow char. And what that does is it brings out the natural sugars. It's a fantastic culinary technique.
Mm. Well,
I might
so
be geeking out too much for y'all.
no, you're not geeking out. I love to cook. Vicky loves to cook. So I'm wondering what's going to be on your Thanksgiving menu.
Yeah, no, well, we always have turkey. That's for sure. That's like, I'm a traditionalist, and I always play around for something different at Christmas. We celebrate Christmas, but for Thanksgiving, it's always a turkey, and I generally brine it like old school wet brine,
It's the best. It's the best.
not the dry brine. I've just started doing that literally probably 20 years ago, and it's always good. So if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So, I mean, there's zero reason to mess that up. So turkey for certain, and I always love dressing, and I always, y'all are gonna laugh, and I'm gonna admit it under oath. I love that old school green bean casserole. The one
With the Campbell
onion
soup?
rings. Yes.
Get some
Yeah.
fried onion rings up
I
top.
would have never guessed that about you. A chef that likes the good old.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just being honest with you. Now I will say that, like, you know, I'll make the cornbread to go into the dressing, and the mushrooms are fresh, and the collards are fresh, and everything else is from scratch. But that one dish is like this little memory, from my childhood. And so, I have worked at plenty of places where we've made the bechamel from scratch, and we've fried the onions, except they were shallots, from scratch, and done that whole dish. And it's good, but it's not that taste memory. And that's so much of what food is. It's not just what it tastes like, it's what it makes you feel like.
Exactly. I'm going to bring that for Christmas. I haven't been with people probably like the two of you for 2 years now. So I'm going to bring that casserole and say, Virginia Willis says it is acceptable for Christmas.
Wait a minute. We have to clarify.
Even better is I always make the food for Thanksgiving, but with that dish, I always ask my mom to make it, because she's, and I'm like, Mama, will you please make the green bean casserole?
Oh, so it's got the Campbell soup and everything, right?
Oh, hell yeah. Well, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, come on. There's you either you go or you don't.
Well,
I think the only thing that we've done to sort of acquiesce to slightly more modern sensibilities, we use the low reduced sodium soup, because the regular soup is a salt lick, but we use the low sodium soup. But everything else is like right off the back of the box. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's part of your memories.
Mm-hmm.
And Kraft macaroni and cheese was part of mine, but I've kind of moved forward.
Is it forward?
No, you don't like.
No, I'm just teasing.
I don't think so. Man.
It depends. I guess it depends on which way you're looking, right? No, I appreciate that, Vicki. I think that one thing that I try to be cognizant of now, I don't know, we're new to meet one another, but over the past 2 years, I've lost a significant amount of weight. And so I have to look at the holidays differently, because we come into this like basically 6 weeks of eating. And I'm not fanatical about stuff. I'm really not. But you can't go off plan for 6 weeks. You can go off plan a day or two, a week or two,
right,
a little bit every now and then. But if you take 6 weeks and put healthy eating on hold, 6 weeks later you have quite the surprise, right? So it is a matter of choices. It is a matter of choices.
So do you do the intermittent fasting or anything?
No, I don't do that. I just mean, no, Lord, I love to eat too much. There's no way. I'm not very good at the fasting. I'm not good at deprivation. I'm good at making good choices, right? So I've lost 65 pounds in the past 2 years. And so I do follow Weight Watchers, but it's not as simple as Weight Watchers. Mainly it's like exercise and just eating eating seasonally and eating less processed. I never ate much processed to begin with, but so
More whole foods and vegetables.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like now, if I need to stress eat instead of stress eating, or instead of stress eating like something that's not as good for me, I might stress eat carrots, or stress eat a thing of blueberries, or stress eat a thing of cherry tomatoes, something like that. Like I just have changed my taste buds a little bit.
Unless it's with The Rock and he wants those chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, hell yeah. That's what I'm saying about being flexible, right? I mean, yeah.
You got to ebb and flow. You got to
go with life. When life presents you these wonderful choices, that's the choice you need to make.
Well, thanks so much for being on Prose with us. Tell everybody how they can get your books, how they can find you on Facebook, because you have a show on Fridays.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for mentioning it. Yeah, so more than anyone ever wants to know about me, you can find it at virginiawillis.com. My information about Cookbooks with Virginia is on there as well. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that if people do want to try the Wild Alaskan Company, if they use my name, Virginia, it's $25 off. So I want to thank y'all so much for having me today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Cheers to you, and hopefully we'll have you back on soon.
Yeah, boocha to you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bon appetit, y'all.
Join us next week for another edition of Prose with Vicki Locke and Cindy Woolley from C2 Communications.